right, welcome back to another episode of Bet GPT. This is episode 64, and I'm coming to you live from South Haven, Mississippi, on the road. So, how are you doing, Slade?
I am good. Better than you because I'm not in Mississippi.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. We have, despite being on the road, we have a great show planned for you today. Plenty of conversations this week leading up to this show, so we're really ready to kick off college football week 1, kind of discuss how week 0 went, the betting implications with that. And then we can talk a little bit MLB. I might sprinkle in some tennis here at the end. But I did want to start the show off with our plan for, I guess, next week. We're going to do an NFL preview, and then we'll have another podcast where we'll just do our normal NFL week 1, college football week 2. And then from here on out, that's kind of how it's going to go. Focus on that. And then we might have some extra pods as the baseball playoffs heat up, or just add that on to our weekly episodes. So that's kind of where we're at. One discrepancy from last year, we did a fantasy football preview episode. I think we should go ahead and scrap that. 1, because we don't have the time, and 2, people probably don't actually even care that much. However, I do have some sound advice if you want to just let me talk for another 30 seconds here. I can just basically give my advice. Does that work for you?
Right. Yeah, go for it.
So if you're in a league with your friends, there's literally no point of telling them who you want or even hinting at it. I think the best way to kind of go about this is to feed them information of players you don't actually want in hopes that they select somebody else. So as part of a little live demo, I'm going to text Nicholas Bear, who's in my league. I'm going to tell him George Pickens round 4 is great value. I think George Pickens is a horrible pick this year. So I'm going George Pickens round 4.
He's going to reply and be like, Russ comeback season, ?
Been hearing great things about him and Russ in camp. And then I'll be like, I don't think he's going to fall to me. So basically, that's the thing about fantasies. You can like, as many guys as you want, but if you're not in the right slot, it just might not be an opportunity to select them unless you reach. So it's kind of hard to project. I think kind of what I do is I have like my guys. So I'll be like, I'm targeting these guys in these couple rounds, these guys later, these guys at the end, whatever. Yeah, that's kind of how it goes for me. I think just be careful who you listen to, kind of just trust target share, how much time they're playing. And from there, the biggest thing is just making sure you're making the right decisions in season and using the waiver wire accordingly, because there's been a lot of good guys. We've seen it with Devon Chain last year. We've seen it with Odell Beckham a few years ago. There's a couple league winners that usually pop up every here and there. So that's all I had. I will, I guess, update you guys if I hear back from Nicholas towards the end of the show. Hopefully we get him to take the bait.
He will take the bait too. That's the best part.
I know. Okay. All right. So let's recap last week. Slade, how'd you do in your 1 6-pack play?
We won, and it really wasn't close. We took Florida State, Georgia Tech under. I don't even know what the number was. I think the game ended up being 24-21 or something like that. So we were well within range. The only way we would have lost that would have been if it went to overtime. So I want to say it might have been like 55.5. And so we were at 42. They had Georgia Tech hit a last second field goal to take down number 10 Florida State. DJU was about what we expected. I think he was number one reason why we took the under. He had like 0 shots downfield until that last drive where he completed a couple 4th downs. They did not push the ball whatsoever. Both teams only had like, I want to say like 6 possessions or something crazy like that. And the average game has like 11 each team. And they just took the air out of the ball. The only threat was overtime. It's funny though, because Florida State, did you watch the very beginning? They just marched right down the field. And I thought we were in for a long day.
I know. I agree.
But no, it hit pretty easily. Our fading of Florida State for the year is off to a good start, because that's not just a loss, that's a conference loss. So they're already in a hole, and honestly, I don't really see how it gets a whole lot better, because personnel is what it is.
I was gonna say, if you're not winning this game, good luck when you're actually playing, the top of the ACC, which arguably isn't necessarily that good, but it is going to be better than Georgia Tech. So, and
Right.
really no time off for them as we lead into week 1. They have Georgia on the schedule, or no, that's Clemson. Who am I
Yeah.
kidding? Who does Florida State have?
Some
Do they
some
have any?
some scrub
Okay,
team.
strike that from the record. Florida
But
State does have an off
you
week.
kind of stole my segue. I was going to mention, this kind of helps out the Miamis and the Clemsons of the world. Um, there is a real chance where the top 3 teams in the preseason all start 0-1. Georgia plays Clemson. Miami is a 2-point favorite over Florida in the swamp. Can I just get right into my 6-pack picks for the week?
Yeah, let's just do it.
All right. So I'm going to start my first 6-pack play is Clemson, Georgia under 48.5. This is a neutral site game in Atlanta. My main reason being that Clemson just does not push the ball down the field. Last year with Cade Klubnik and Garrett Riley, it was their first year together, but still they had a explosive pass rate that was 121st in the country. Their red zone points per possession was 3.9, which was 115th in the country. We talked about, I think we mentioned a couple pods ago when we were doing our preview that some of this stuff is gonna stabilize. Like they led the nation in fumbles lost. Like I don't expect that stuff to continue for the season, but versus Georgia, I don't think it really matters. I don't think they're going to be able to push the ball down the field. 48.5 is not a ton of points, but it's hard for me to envision a scenario where Clemson scores 20 plus points. They played a few years ago here in Charlotte, my first week living here actually, and I want to say the score of that game was like under 30 total points. So like it's going to be a tough like game up front for both teams. Clemson has a top defensive line. Georgia has a good offensive line. Something's got to give. Georgia's star running back, who transferred in from Florida, is likely out, but that's still TBD. So that could change between now and Saturday. ETN, he's likely out of that game. Be interesting to see what Georgia looks like without what's his name, Bowers.
Georgia, yes, they're good. They've lost a lot of talent though, so I'm really eager to see if they can actually back it up right away, or if it's going to take some time. Because obviously they have the talent, but if they're guys who don't have as much experience, are they actually going to perform? So I think that'll be a pretty good thing to kind of keep an eye on Saturday.
I do think Carson Beck has a chance to he's second in the Heisman right now behind Dylan Gabriel, who's playing Utah. No one's going to be paying attention to what Oregon does Oregon is playing Idaho. Sorry, no one's going to be paying attention to that.
Did you see who Carson Beck's girlfriend is now?
Oh God, who it was? It's some influencer.
It's one of the Cavender twins.
Cavenders, yeah.
Yep.
Well, he's ugly.
So we can go ahead and fade
he's
that.
Gonna be a first round pick. Speaking of future first round picks, my second.
Oh, let me do mine. Mine's a better intro for future first round picks. I'm going with. I know there was some negativity in regards to him last week and in the preview, but I'm taking Florida money line in the swamp. Graham Mertz. There are not many wins on the schedule. This is one. They need it badly. Florida money line. Shop around for this, but I'm gonna go ahead and lock that in at what is the price? I'm losing it now.
Probably like it's
one plus 142. Plus 142.
I don't hate it. I'm still on the Miami over. It's funny because I was like hyping up Miami, like they're probably favored in every game. They're gonna win. They're in my ACC title game. I think this is a very losable game for them. I'm not playing the Florida side in this, but I think it's very losable because Cam Ward's first game with Miami, he is a risk taker. Florida has been getting shit on all off season, talking about how they're going to win 4 games. Miami is, one of the darlings, and you're talking about still one of the hardest places to play in the country in a game where the fan base can still convince themselves it matters, and it's a rivalry game. So it is a night game too. So I was thinking about playing the under in this one, but I have not. I've
I
stayed
think this is
away.
going to be one of those games where the public sees Miami and just tries to bet them up to like -3. They're at -2.5 right now. Not saying Florida is going to go out and kill them or anything, but I think this is like a total toss up. And if I'm getting the plus money, I'm taking that team. And let me just get an update on the price here because I think it's moved a little bit. Florida is at plus 126. That's what it is. So Florida plus 126. Okay. Go ahead with your
Okay.
next pick.
So I was saying, speaking of first round quarterbacks, Nussmeier from LSU has been getting a lot of first round buzz. I'm a believer in him. He looked good in their bowl game, just like Miller Moss did. LSU was playing USC. I think both of us are kind of optimistic on USC, but I don't know if we're going to see some turnaround defensively from them, especially when they're playing a guy that I tend to believe is actually a real prospect at quarterback. The line or the over under is 64.5 and LSU is -4. I am taking the over 64.5. I think Miller Moss and Lincoln Riley are going to do what they always do. I can't imagine a scenario where they score like less than 24 points. And it's not like LSU's defense was any good last year. Like these were two of the worst defenses in the country. Yes, they both made some coaching changes, some personnel changes. The odds of them having it solved by week 1, I don't know if I see it. BJ Cunningham of the Action Network, he projected this line around 68, 69, which is nice. So I think you're getting good value at 64.5. I would not be surprised if this is like a 38-35 type game.
Okay, I was worried you were going to take my pick because I do like the over in this game, but I wanted to focus on LSU's team total. I'm going over 34.5 because I do think there's going to be points. So I'm on
Okay.
LSU over 34.5 at -120.
I mean, I probably need that for mine to cash. So they kind of work
So
together.
not quite a double unit play. They're a little bit different. One can win, the other can't. But chances are they're both winning and they're both losing. I think we have a pretty good chance of winning.
What's your number 2?
So that I'll just say that's my number 2, and then I'll close it out with my third pick. Then we can go back to you.
Oh, you're right.
I hate to do this to Coach Prime. He built up a phenomenally great team with an over under 4.5. They probably, I don't know. This was probably for their season total. This was probably priced in as a win, but I do think they win plus 9.5. North Dakota State, FCS powerhouse. We just saw the New Mexico Montana State game. These FCS teams at the top are no joke. So I'm going plus 9.5. North Dakota State. I think Travis Hunter will play great. I think Shador Sanders will play completely average, and the rest of the team will play average. And I think it'll be within 10, or I think it'll be darn close. So I'm taking the 9.5.
So we don't share picks before we come on.
Oh, come on.
So when we get on and we have something that's the same, we do a double unit. But what do we do if we're on opposite sides?
Oh, we have to scrap it then. We can't do that.
I'm on Colorado.
Why don't
minus
you
nine and
talk
a
me through
half.
it then? Let's see you convince the other person, and we'll go with that.
My thoughts. We know Colorado peaks early,
Okay.
just like last year. Number 2, North Dakota State. Their coach for the last 5 years. He won 2 national titles. They kind of declined the last 2 years. Did you know he left to be an assistant coach at
Did not.
USC? So North Dakota State has a new football coach. And if there's one thing I know about Prime, it's that if he gets a chance to run it up on somebody, he's going to do it. If he has a chance to shut some quote unquote haters up, I think he's going to do it. This just feels like one of those games where like maybe North Dakota State hangs around, but Prime is going to try everything he can to get Shedeur and Travis Hunter their stats. And this is the time of year where people care about what Colorado's doing because they're not out of it yet. So he's been going after the media there in Denver, the Denver Post or whatever. I think he's going to have this like us against the world type mentality, and they're going to go out there and play an FCS team and start beating their chest after they win by 20 points.
I don't hate that. I do agree. This is kind of going to be their Super Bowl because as the season goes on, they're basically just playing to get into the Cheez-It Bowl. They're not actually going to be anywhere near the playoff.
The Cheez-It Bowl would be a good outcome for them, to be quite honest. I mean, if I were them, the Cheez-It Bowl, the Pop-Tart Bowl, one of those two they should be trying to get into. And if there's one thing I want to say too is if there's one thing we know about Colorado, aside from peaking early, it's that they don't have depth. So what they are week one is probably the best version of themselves personnel wise that we'll see all year. That's true for most teams, but Colorado is thin in the trenches. We know that if they have a couple offensive linemen go out in week 4, Shedeur is going to be running for his life the rest of the year. But right now they're
guess
healthy.
what? They don't even have to go out. All they need is Coach Prime to negatively talk about them in the presser, and they can just give up. That's all it takes, too. So, yeah.
It's true.
All right.
It's true.
We have officially shifted our play to Colorado minus 9.5. I've been talked into it.
Well, the thing is, if I end up being wrong, you're going to come on here and be like, why did we listen to you?
That's part of the fun. That's part of the fun. I've already taken that off my betting card, and I have a third pick ready once you're done with your Coach Prime.
All right. Let's hear the fill-in.
So I'll just steal a pick from you. I'm surprised you didn't give this out. We're going back to Old Reliable. Iowa team or game total under 40.5. Last year, I think we went like 7-0 on this, or I should say you did. We played it every single week. So we're just going to keep it up. Obviously, it's Iowa, Illinois State. Right after we get done with this pod, we're doing our Talking Hawks episode 1 for the 2024 season. So we'll talk about that game in more detail, the rest of the season, the depth chart, all that good stuff. So please give that a listen, especially if you are an Iowa fan. But yeah, going back to the well, Iowa, Illinois State under 40.5. I don't know a darn thing about Illinois State. I don't need to. I just know our defense is going to come to play. They're going to be motivated because their coach is sitting on his couch at home, suspended for 23 hours and 59 minutes. So I'm going Iowa under. You have any thoughts on that?
I have not played it, but I will say that one thing going your direction is like Iowa has a new offensive coordinator, and with that, more so than there being like, some rough patches throughout that game, is they have Iowa State next week. How much are they going to show? How much are they going to put on film of Tim Lester's offense before Iowa State?
Get up like 24-3 and then kind of run it out. That's how I see it going.
I think they're going to score around 30, but does Illinois State score 10? I would put their over under at like 7.5.
Yeah.
So it's really, do you think Iowa can score 34 plus or 34?
I think it only goes over and if there's defensive touchdown, which is very possible. Same with if Iowa, if they turn it over and Illinois State has short field, they can score in Iowa. But Illinois State is not going to score over 7.5 when they're starting at their own 20 every time. That's just not going to happen. So that's why I like that under 40.5.
All right. Lock it in. If it goes over, though, we have to ride the Iowa over the rest of the year.
Well, we can talk about that. I'm not sure if that's the smartest move. Yeah, definitely. Okay. So I wrote these down here. Did you give all three? Looks like you did. Yeah.
Yeah, I have Clemson, Georgia, USC, LSU, and Colorado, North Dakota State.
Okay.
And a couple of episodes back, I did give Texas A&M -2.5 versus Notre Dame. So that's the other one.
Okay.
Still feel good about it.
Okay, so let's just recap this real quick. We have Florida money line against Miami, Colorado -9.5 against North Dakota State. The LSU game, we have the over 64.5 and the LSU team total over 34.5. We have the Iowa football under 40.5, and we have Clemson, Georgia under 48. So we're basically rooting for no points in all games other than the USC LSU game.
Yeah. You know what was interesting is last week we talked about how like the helmet communications might increase like offensive points, but I think it actually kind of did the opposite. It slowed the pace down because teams were like clearly the coaches were in their ear, kind of talking them through what they were seeing up until the mic shuts off. Um, but some of that too is like the teams we are watching, like Georgia Tech, Florida State, SMU, like those teams, Nevada especially. Like that, those two games were like the main ones on last weekend. Those two teams are not gonna be going up
No.
tempo with their
Yeah.
personnel. So that was probably more of the circumstances than anything to do with the
Yeah.
headsets.
Yep. Absolutely. I totally agree. Okay. Any other, I guess, big things to talk about for NFL or college football week one? I feel like most of our plays were the big games. There's obviously those games like Ohio State, who's 50.5 point favorites. There's not much we're going to learn from these blowouts, but it's just going to be good to get
Uh,
football back on the screen.
yeah, there's a couple games. I guess I could probably talk through
Sure.
real quick. Penn State, West Virginia is an 8.5 point spread. Um, Penn State's favored. That game is in West Virginia. It's a noon kickoff, which kind of feels odd. Um, I haven't played either side of it. I don't know what to make of Penn State's new offense. They have a new offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. Um, I think I what do you do with Drew Aller coming into the year? I have no idea. I know Penn State's going to be pretty good. So my thought is that the total's 51.5. I was leaning on playing the under here just because I don't really trust Drew Aller. I know Singleton is their running back. They're going to pound the ball. Penn State's defense is going to be probably top 5-10 like it always is. It's week one. Like could West Virginia come out a little sloppy on offense? And then, I was reading something too. West Virginia last year, if you go through the quarterbacks they faced, they were all like complete garbage in the games they won. So they only beat garbage quarterbacks. So that kind of made me think like maybe if Penn State and Drew Aller play okay, like they can run them out for take out that 8.5 number pretty quick. Um, but I just don't really trust Drew Aller. I didn't see anything last year that makes me think like he's going to go into Morgantown week one and light it up.
Yeah, it's hard because I do think he ends up being an NFL prospect. I just don't know if he's ready to put it all together yet. So
And to your earlier question, Florida State plays Boston College, so another conference game. They're a 17-point favorite. I'm not betting it. I could see it going either way. The whole like revenge thing, or you could just be like, maybe they just really are this bad.
yeah,
We don't know.
yeah.
Um, so let's see what else. There's a lot of big numbers. That's pretty common for week one, so I'm not really going to get into those. I did play Akron. They're 50.5 dogs to Ohio State. I did have a teaser with them in it, so I got that up to 57.5. If Ohio State beats Akron by 60 or more, then like I don't know. I think you just kind of tip your cap and you're like, all right,
That's okay. That'll be good for our Judkins and Travion Henderson and Will Howard Heisman future.
yeah.
So it's all good.
I'm not even sure what you can say at that point. I mean, Ohio State probably isn't even too concerned about running anything up. I mean, that would be their backups going off like that. Thursday night. Forgot tomorrow night. Minnesota UNC. Um, I do have some bets on this because in North Carolina, FanDuel has like in-state game boosts and stuff like that, and so does DraftKings. Um, so what's funny is North Carolina went from having Drake May to like now they have two bad quarterbacks. And then Minnesota's like best wide receivers are out. The total's 50.5. I did an alt line. I did it like a little bit higher than 50.5. I'm at like 53.5, something like that. I took the under. I think it's gonna be a really bad football game to watch.
That sounds like a game I don't want to watch. So yeah, I could assume that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be horrendous. I mean, I I'm rooting for UNC, but UNC is a 2-point favorite. It was like a pick 'em not too long ago, but with Minnesota's injuries, it pushed the line. Um, Slight coaching advantage to UNC over PJ Fleck. The game is in Minneapolis. It's a Fox game tomorrow night. So tune in if you got nothing else to do or you're betting on it. But I do not expect pretty football.
Maybe on that Thursday you could just spend time with your significant other or your family, because next Thursday we have the NFL kickoff. We got Thursday, Friday games, then we got a whole Saturday, Sunday slate of football. So enjoy the free time while you got it, because it's about time to grind and watch the game. So
Yep. Finish up all your Netflix shows by this week by Friday
yep,
night, because once that hits, you're not getting much spare TV time with your girl. So
no, no. Uh, One quick TV recommendation, then we can go into we talk about a little baseball here. Bad Monkey, new Vince Vaughn comedy slash mystery detective thing.
is this a show or
Yeah,
a
it's a
movie?
show. It just came out on Apple TV 3 weeks ago. First three episodes are out. It's pretty good. You know, nothing like earth shattering, but it's an easy, fun watch. So yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Baseball. We came on here and talked about the NL Rookie of the Year race like a month ago, and Paul Skeens was like minus 4,000. Things have changed dramatically. Jackson Merrill has been on fire in the clutch. Paul Skeens has been, I mean, he's been fine. He hasn't even been bad. He's just been pretty good. But he's not an everyday player. We talked about this at the beginning of the year for the MLB preview. If you play every game, you are going to have the advantage over pitchers. And he's flipped to minus 600. Paul Skeens in the plus 250 ish range, depending on where you are. What do you think ends up happening here? Do you think Merrill actually takes this? Because I'm more of the team like, I think Paul Skeens, I don't think he's going to pitch more than 5 or 6 innings every start now. I think they're just going to not shut him down, but they're just going to slowly ease him out.
I'm afraid to jinx it, because if I say what I really feel, I feel like I'm gonna ruin the energy. But I feel really good. I feel really good about our boy Merrill. Yeah, Paul Skeens has not had a start this year where he has been on less than every start he's had this year has been on 5 or 6 days of rest. The average starter is on 4 days of rest. So they're already babying him a little bit. He gave up 3 runs today to the Cubs. He was fine. His start before that, he looked really good. I have a feeling by like mid September we'll see his last start. And then Merrill will obviously keep playing those last 2 weeks. So that leaves a little cushion for him to pull away if Merrill even plays decent those last 2 weeks. Um, in terms of just like value, though, I mean, I still think most teams would take Paul Skeens over Merrill like 1-to-1. But in terms of like what they've done in the 2024 season and their like body of work, I would give it to Merrill just because Skeens didn't come up till late May or whatever it was, mid May, and he's not going to be probably finishing the year in the rotation. He only, like I said, only pitches every 5-6 days. He's just not going to have the workload. And if you're giving it to him for being like this like future face of the league, then you're almost doing it for like I don't know what the word. It's not for what you're doing. It's like what they think you can be almost
Yeah, which
like
is that's not the award.
popularity
Yeah, that's
award.
not the award.
Yeah,
So
it's like then you're just doing it for a popularity or a narrative.
yeah,
Is what I was trying to
yeah.
get at.
So narratives are a big thing too. And like if you're like if Paul Skeens was a New York Yankee, he'd 100% win. Like that stuff matters. So looking at the AL,
But also he wouldn't be shut down in
that's
September.
true. That's true.
He'd be finishing
That's
the
true.
year.
Independent
So
race. Yeah, that's true. It does matter. But looking at the AL rookie there, Colton Cowser minus 550, we're obviously on him. Which I do want to say, if you didn't listen to the MLB preview pod, I feel sorry for you, because we gave out Merrill 40-1 and Colton Cowser 33-1. Like those numbers were out there and we talked about it. So we will both be reaping the benefits of that, hopefully, if they can finish things out. But yeah. So rookie of the year, Colton Cowser minus 550, Austin Wells, the Yankees catcher 8-1, Wilyer Abreu 20-1. I think you could do a whole lot worse than betting Austin Wells 8-1. He's closely approaching him on F4. Um,
I'm getting a little nervous about it because that's like the one guy I have not hedged our Cowser tickets with. And so like he's like the one guy that can really screw me in that race. Um and we talked about this like all summer, basically all season. We've been like Cowser is not doing anything flashy. He's just consistently being in a decent everyday player, and the race is just really pathetic and weak and injured. Like he's not doing anything crazy. So like if Austin Wells does get hot, no one's gonna give a shit taking away Colton Cowser's, you know, the favorite or the pedestal he's on right now. No one's gonna feel bad for him if he doesn't
no,
win.
exactly. So Colton Cowser,
He's just there. He's just a
he's a
guy.
he's
He's
a
a
good
jag.
player, but it's not like he's anything special. I think there's multiple people in the NL who would win this award. Like if you threw Mason Wynn of the Cardinals over here or Fitzgerald,
Shota Imanaga would
yeah.
win this.
So I don't know. I think you could do a whole lot worse.
Michael Bush and Cowser would be a very close competition.
Yeah, I agree. What about PCA? 4-hit day today. Don't forget about him.
Man, if he played the way he has the last month, then yeah, but I still don't know. He's been worth 1.5 wins over the last calendar month, which would put you at a 7.5 win
Yeah,
pace. Obviously, you can't really. It's not fair to take your best stretch and you know project it out. But he's been really good.
yeah,
That's what I'm
yeah.
getting
And
at.
I think Cowser is in like the 3.9 ish range, and Wells 3.1. Or no, that's Merrill. Merrill's 3.9, I think. But regardless,
Yeah,
yeah. That's I think WAR is going to be a big metric, and I hope the voters do end up using that, and hopefully F WAR other than B WAR. B WAR, the baseball reference is so weird because the defensive metrics aligned with it are so much different. There should just be one. That's why I just choose to use fan graphs, even though in this case it definitely does prefer my player, but I usually think F4 in general is the better one to use. Pennant races, Guardians getting passed up by the Royals. That they were up like 10 games mid June. I'm not necessarily surprised. Mike Matheny set that team up for success 2 years ago, and now they're playing well. Bobby Witt Jr. is on an absolute tear. As you texted me today, he would easily win MVP in the NL, but that's just not the case. Aaron Judge is. I think it's safe to say Aaron Judge is an all-time great. I'm not saying he's going to be this good for another, he probably only has 3 or 4 years left. He is old, but this is all, you got to respect the greatness with him. And so he'll get that award. Otani on the NL is probably going to take it. Lindor's charged up from 60-1 to 5-1. But I have a hard time believing Otani gets that taken away from him.
yeah. I mean, Otani has a 40-40 season, a chance for a 50-50 season, 50 home runs, 50 steals, even though he's a DH. The NL just doesn't really have anyone who's putting up a fight. I guess like you said Lindor, but like when you take the top players in the AL versus Lindor, I mean, where's Lindor rank? He's not in the top 3 or 4 probably.
No.
Um, Bobby Witt Jr. is going to have the best shortstop season since the steroid era, and he's not going to win an MVP because Aaron Judge. Yeah, he's an all-time great in terms of his peak. I think we can all agree like his MVP seasons. This will be his third. You can put them up against almost anybody. He doesn't have the longevity like you mentioned. He's already old. Yeah, what he's doing is pretty crazy. I mean, yeah. One correction: the Guardians took back the division today.
Oh,
They're back in
okay.
first. They beat the Royals head to head like 7-5. So they are back in the driver's seat. But obviously, there's a long ways to go, and I'm sure they play each other another 5 times or something. So
Yeah, I have a pretty big rooting interest in the Royals this year. I have them 60-1 to face the Dodgers, and I'm slowly building my portfolio in the World Series. That is, I'm slowly building my playoff portfolio. I also have the D-backs 30-1 and the Royals 20-1 to win the AL. So, just throwing like $10 on these things here on and they're out, and hopefully we see some upsets like we did last year.
I put one on the Padres and the Royals exact World Series. I didn't put the winner, but it was like 150-ish to 1 maybe. Um, that was just this past week. I only put a few bucks on it because getting those right, I mean, is damn near
Yeah.
impossible. But I just basically took the two teams that are the hottest in August and was like, well, let's see what happens.
Yeah, that's why I did it with the Royals and the Dodgers because I was like, the Dodgers, I'll let it be chalky in the NL and something a little bit crazier in the AL.
Yeah.
You know, usually you're not going to get
I
both
just
of them.
wanted a really long
Yeah.
number. Yeah, I just wanted a really long number. And I guess also, I mean, the Padres are the longest shot, just longer than like the Royals, even because the Royals still have a chance to win the division. Um, the Padres don't really, so they're going to be a wild card team, which makes their odds longer. They're going to have to play an extra round and everything. So, um, yeah, it's hard to. What's weird about that the Astros is like I came into the year high on them and then they fell off, and now I feel like people are back in on them.
I'm back in on them. I think they're
And
good.
like I bought a little bit on them when they were low, but not enough for me to be like rooting for them super hard. Like I still have an odds boost I use on the Dodgers. I still have some futures on like the Orioles winning the division over the Yankees, stuff like that. But I really don't have like a World Series bet that I'm like super confident in or that I'm financially super invested in.
Did you?
So there's still
I
time.
remember, I think last time we talked about the Astros, Kyle Tucker was playing well, and I don't think he's played since. He has just some random
Yeah.
injury. I think it's a shin or something that was supposed to be like
Yeah.
a, I don't know, month long thing tops. It's like month 3, and there's like, he's like resumed baseball activities,
I
but it's really weird.
I got him at like plus 200 to win an AL Silver
Oh,
Slugger.
yeah.
And then he went nuts and was like he was like the leading vote getter at one point for the All-Star game in the AL. Like he was we were talking about him when we were doing like the MVP race and we were talking about like it was like Witt and like Gunner and Judge and there was someone else. Oh, Soto. And then it was like we were throwing his name in the mix, Kyle Tucker. He was leading the league in home run. Now he hasn't played. So that ticket's gone. That's the risk. That's the risk of these long futures, though. That's why you get good odds
Yeah, it's
sometimes.
usually built into the price. A lot can change throughout the year. So we'll go ahead and update everyone on the playoffs probably once a week, just like this for 10 minutes on the playoff races that is. And yeah, excited for baseball. I don't want that to get totally overshadowed by football because there are, I mean, we're part of it. There's a select few of us who really do care about the MLB still. So
I think part of the reason it's the last few years is it's just like there hasn't been any good races for the division. So like all of September, people are focusing on football starting and like the baseball. We already kind of know who the teams are that are going to get in, and then we're just kind of like waiting till the playoffs start. So there's like almost a month of kind of like you're kind of paying attention, but it's on the second
yeah,
screen.
yeah, I agree. Okay. Yeah, just to kind of close the show, I had a couple tennis thoughts real quick. So I've been watching quite a bit of the US Open. On the women's side, I think Sabalenka looks the best by far. Iga's been struggling out of the gate. And Sabalenka has looked phenomenal. But what I do want to point out is they have some futures available. Naomi Osaka, she beat Ostapenko in the first round. She's 16 to 1 to win it all. It's going to be her, Iga, going to the finals on the upper half of the bracket. So I think 16 to 1 for Osaka is live. And if you do want to fade Iga, which do that at your own risk, Diana Schneider is 10 to 1 to win quarter one on FanDuel. She's a younger player. She's 20 years old, so she'll probably be someone who's going to win a slam in a couple years. But that's someone I'm looking to bet on a match by match basis. On the men's side,
Uh,
Alcaraz,
I
Sinner, Djokovic.
I have a tennis
Yeah.
question for you. Is Carlos Alcaraz good?
Yes, he is good. He's won the French Open and the Wimbledon this year. So if he wins this major, that'd be 3 in a row, and I believe only 2 other individuals have done that in a calendar year.
Well, I may or may not have taken him to win quarter two.
Okay. I like that. And that
I got it. I got it with a 30% boost I had, so I got it down to like minus
I was
160.
gonna say I think that was like minus 250. His biggest.
Yeah, I got it was at two. It was at minus 250, and then it went down to minus 220. So I was like, okay, now I'll throw 30% on, get it down to minus
Yeah, I think
160.
his biggest roadblock there is Sep Corda, the American, who's in really good form. But I don't think that's going to be an issue at all. So I think you can probably go ahead and cash that.
And I think he plays tomorrow.
Yeah. So all these guys and gals, they play every other day for 2 weeks. So Slade, I know you're going to New York next week. If you change your mind, U.S. Open. It's a great spectacle. The night matches there, a lot of fun. I'm hoping to get out there one day. But okay, we're gonna go ahead and end this show. We're gonna fire up the Talking Hawks episode, but I did want to fall back on my bit at the beginning where I texted my friend about George Pickens. Basically, I let him know I've been hearing great things about him and Russ in camp. Nicholas said, I'm not as high on him, but I guess they'll have they need someone to throw to. And I said, I wasn't either, but man, signs are good. This came out of nowhere. And then he said, volume versus quality, I guess. He'll get plenty of targets. So we are slowly converting him to a George Pickens man. This is all you need to know.
Let's buy him a George Pickens jersey.
Exactly, yeah. So if there's someone.
It's funny because he thinks you're an idiot, and he's trying to be nice and be like, I can see where you're coming, but really we're making fun of him for even though he's not taking the bait at all.
Hopefully you guys have some better luck with your league, trying to fool some people, get some of your guys. But successful episode today. Really enjoyed this. Looking forward to the Talking Hawks NFL preview and then getting back to our normal schedule next week. So appreciate everyone listening. This has been another episode of Bet GPT.